Hello everyone, welcome to English Meow. Today I'm going to share Amy's journey of learning English with you. Let's explore the methods she used to learn while listening to her slow-paced English reading.
Hello there, my name is Amy, and today I want to tell you a longer and more detailed story about how I improved my English listening skills. Looking back, it feels almost like a lifetime ago when I first struggled to catch even the simplest English words, but the journey itself has shaped not only my ability to understand another language, but also my way of approaching challenges in life. About 10 years ago, I honestly could not follow a normal English conversation. If two people were talking, all I heard was a blur of sounds, almost like fast music without melody. At that time, I never imagined that one day I would be able to sit comfortably in international meetings, watch movies without subtitles, or even make genuine friends from different parts of the world. Achieving this ability was not quick, and it was certainly not easy. But every step, every mistake, and every moment of confusion was part of a larger picture that made the process worthwhile. I grew up in a small town where opportunities to use English were extremely rare. In school, our teachers emphasized grammar exercises, reading comprehension, and writing short essays. These skills helped me pass exams, but they left me almost helpless when faced with the living, breathing version of English that people spoke in the real world. I clearly remember the day I started my first job in an international company. On the very first morning, my supervisor came to greet me and asked a simple question. I understood nothing. My heart raced, my palms sweated, and I only smiled nervously, hoping that he would repeat himself or speak slower. That moment hit me hard. I could read company emails written in English without much difficulty. But when a colleague stood in front of me and spoke naturally, it was as if I had never studied the language at all. This realization pushed me into action. I knew I couldn't continue avoiding conversations forever. I had to build my listening skills from the ground up. At first, I felt as if I were drowning in an ocean of unfamiliar sounds. I recognized words on paper but failed to hear them in conversation. People's voices blended into one endless stream, leaving me confused and frustrated. My confidence dropped so low that I avoided any situation where English listening was necessary. But then I reminded myself that learning to swim also begins with fear. The water feels overwhelming, yet with patience and practice, one day you realize you can float, then move forward, and eventually swim confidently. The same principle applied to English listening. During the early stages, I often made embarrassing mistakes. Once in a team meeting, my boss asked me whether I could handle a certain project. Unfortunately, I misheard the question and thought he was offering his help. With confidence, I said, "Yes, definitely," meaning, "Yes, I need help." The room fell silent, and confused looks spread across the table until a kind colleague explained the misunderstanding. Laughter followed, and although I felt embarrassed, I also learned something valuable. That incident taught me the exact meaning and use of the word handle. And since then, I never forgot it. Every mistake became a stepping stone, and each misunderstanding highlighted the areas where I needed to grow. A true turning point in my journey came during my first trip abroad, to London. I had already studied English for a couple of years, focusing mainly on listening practice with slow materials. Yet, Real-life conversations still felt like a wall too high to climb. On my third day in London, I got lost in a maze of streets. With no map and no choice, I had to ask a passerby for directions. My voice shook with nervousness, but when the person replied, I discovered that I actually understood what they said. Not only that, but they also smiled and complimented my English. That small, unexpected moment lit a fire inside me. It proved that I had been improving all along, even if I didn't notice it day by day. The confidence from that one interaction changed how I approached listening practice afterward. Instead of avoiding difficult content, I started to treat it as a challenge. I began with resources created for learners, such as VOA Learning English and BBC Learning English, which were a lifesaver at the beginning. Their slower pace and clear pronunciation helped me connect sounds with meanings. Once I understood about 80% of that material, I deliberately moved on to harder sources. Children's programs and simple documentaries came next, and later, I dared to try short scenes from TV shows. At first, I only watched 5 minutes at a time. It was exhausting, but gradually, those 5 minutes turned into half an episode, and eventually into whole movies. Repetition became my strongest tool. I developed a routine of listening to the same audio clip 3 times. The first time, I only aimed to catch the general meaning. The second time, I focused on small details, trying to hear the words I missed earlier. The third time, I repeated aloud what I heard, almost like shadowing the speaker. This simple habit trained my ears and my mouth together, reinforcing recognition of sounds and improving my pronunciation at the same time. Music added another layer of joy to my learning. I chose slow songs with clear voices and read the lyrics while listening. Gradually, I memorized the words and sang along. At first, I felt silly, but soon I noticed I could catch phrases in conversations that I had learned through songs. It felt magical to realize that something enjoyable could also be so effective. I also discovered the importance of weaving English into my everyday life. Instead of setting aside long hours of serious study, I sprinkled listening moments throughout my daily routine. While brushing my teeth, I played short podcasts. During my commute, I chose English audiobooks instead of music in my own language. Even while cooking, I followed English recipe videos. Over time, these small habits created an English-rich environment around me. Without much extra effort, I was exposed to the language for hours each day. Reading and writing unexpectedly supported my listening too. When I read aloud, I could hear the rhythm of English and internalize the way words connected. Keeping a diary in English helped me think in the language, which in turn made it easier to understand when others spoke. Even 10 minutes of reading or writing a day sharpened my ability to process English naturally. Of course, there were days when I felt stuck, unable to understand anything. In those moments, I reminded myself that even native speakers sometimes mishear each other. Instead of focusing on what I missed, I celebrated the parts I caught. Maybe I understood a single sentence in a long conversation that was still progress. These small victories kept me motivated. Confidence grew from these tiny achievements. I started by practicing very short interactions, like ordering coffee or asking for the time. Each success, no matter how small, gave me courage for the next step. Over time, my fear of speaking and listening faded, replaced by a quiet belief that I could manage, even if I didn't understand everything perfectly. I also learned to set realistic goals. Instead of vague dreams like, I want to be fluent, I wrote down specific weekly targets. For example, understand 3 news headlines on the BBC this week, or follow one 5-minute cooking tutorial without subtitles. Achieving these clear goals gave me a sense of accomplishment, and keeping a journal of progress showed me how far I had come. Looking back on those notes always gave me fresh motivation. Celebration became an important part of learning. The first time I understood a joke in English, I treated myself to cake. The day I watched an entire episode without subtitles, I shared my happiness with friends. These small celebrations reminded me that learning was not just work, but also joy. To overcome repeated mistakes, I carried a small notebook where I wrote down words or expressions I often misheard. Reviewing that list regularly made me more attentive, and slowly those problem areas disappeared. Having a study partner also changed the game. My friend Sophie and I listened to the same podcast every week and then discussed what we understood. Sometimes we laughed at our misunderstandings, sometimes we explained things to each other. But in every case, the shared journey made learning lighter and more enjoyable. In conversations with native speakers, I learned not to feel ashamed about asking for help. A simple request, like, "Could you speak a little slower, please?" often made communication smoother. Most people were kind and willing to adjust. That taught me that communication is not about perfection, but about connection. Later, I joined online communities where learners from all over the world supported each other. Apps like Tandem or HelloTalk allowed me to talk with real people, and platforms like italki gave me affordable chances to practice with teachers. Through these experiences, I built friendships that crossed borders, and I realized that listening skills were opening doors to an entirely new world. Improving listening was never only about understanding words. It was about connecting with people, cultures, and opportunities that had once felt unreachable. The ability to join international conversations advanced my career, allowed me to travel more confidently, and enriched my personal life in countless ways. The process, I discovered, is like gardening. You plant seeds of knowledge, water them daily with practice, and even when it seems like nothing is happening, growth is occurring beneath the surface. Then suddenly one day, flowers bloom. You understand a fast conversation, laugh at a joke, or enjoy a film without subtitles. These moments make every bit of effort worthwhile. I often imagine what the future holds for learners who persist. 6 months of steady practice could transform how you experience the world. Confidently watching YouTube videos, following airport announcements, enjoying music, or holding a friendly chat with a stranger in English. These experiences are waiting, but they require patience and consistency. The journey has ups and downs. Some days feel like big steps forward, and others feel like going backward. But that is normal, and the only true failure is giving up. Step by step, day by day, you realize that progress is not always visible in the moment, but becomes clear over time. So, if you are also struggling with English listening, I hope my story shows that it is possible. The path may feel long, but every word you catch, every song lyric you understand, and every conversation you join is a sign of growth. Keep going, trust the process, and remember that listening is not only about language, it is about opening the door to the world.
All right, let's give a big thank you to Amy for her sharing. After listening to her story, do you have any thoughts or new plans? But no matter what, just like Amy said, never stop learning because before you even realize it, you'll keep making progress. Thank you for listening today and see you in the next episode.